Hi everybody, I'm Kerry Benson from Essential Nails. Now I did these nails a couple of weeks ago and everybody on social media loved them. So I thought I'd do you a demo. They're not as difficult as you think. So I'm going to demonstrate on a tip here because not all of you are sculpting yet. Didn't want you to feel left out. You can see one of them on the tray now. I have sculpted and I've done it with clear and it gives a slightly different look, but I've put a natural tip on the trainer here. And I'm just going to break down the design and show you that it's not quite as difficult as it looks. So I've got a cover pink acrylic powder from Essential Nails, and the brush is quite small considering the size of the nail, so I've picked up a large bead of this product. I haven't drained the liquid out of it. I think you're going to need to learn the ratios of the product that you're using and how much liquid your brush holds. It can take a little bit of playing with till you get used to it. But this first bead, I've used the tip of the brush obviously to feather the product up, blend it into the nail plate, and then with the tip I've used it to just draw the product down and make it a little bit deeper in the smile line and more elegant. So with the belly of the brush there, I just smooth it over. You don't want to press too much because you do need some thickness of product there for strength, but really this is just about making sure that you get your smile line as neat as you can. Now you can do this in one or two large beads, but when you're first starting out you might find it easier to do it in a few more whilst you get used to how to control the product. So this little bead I've just applied by the cuticle, I did just touch it on the towel and take a little bit of the liquid out. Depending on the brand of cover pink, you can find that the colour can separate and they can look a little bit watery, so drawing the liquid out the back of the bead and the brush on the paper towel can make them more opaque and make the colour more consistent. I've just applied a large bead of natural pink on top of this to build my apex, and a nail this long, the apex coupled with the C curve in the nail is what gives this nail its strength. So this is the pinching tool and with the cuticle push at one end, and you need to be sure that your product is set enough. You don't want it to be tacky. And as it's just going hard, it still has a bit of flexibility left in it. You're going to apply this pinching tool like this, just so that the pressure is where the free edge is. I'm going to cover this in a bit more depth in a different video. But the C-curve and the apex is where a very long nail will draw its strength from. So when your product is completely set and you've removed your pinching tool, this is where you can just pick up your file, and we're going to even up this smile line. We're going to make it very, very crisp. This is the opportunity to even it up, balance it if you didn't get it quite right during application. But we want that step to be very sharp and very, very neat. We're going to butt the colour up to this. So with the file at 90 degrees to the surface of the nail, we've filed all the way around that smile line up to the side walls, taking the dust off. You can just see this step here. Look, just pointing it out. So this is what we're going to butt our colour up to. It gives you the very, very crisp smile line that we're looking for with the colour. So this is Cerise Clouds, and I've taken a bit of the liquid out of it. We don't want it to run everywhere, but we're just going to butt it up there using the tip of the brush, push it up along that ridge that you filed, and we're going to just use the tip of the brush to feather the colour down, almost using it like paint. Does depend on the brand, but not all coloured powders are strength powders. Some are just for design, high pigment, but we're going to cap the whole nail in clear afterwards anyway, so we're only using tiny amounts. I've got a different acrylic powder here which has just got a little bit of shimmer in, but you can add in glitters and you can add in tiny amounts of colour acrylic from other brands or companies if you've picked out a few colours that you like, but just make sure that your whole system that you're using is the same brand, as it's designed to work together in the correct ratios. So I have two different types of glitter in this design, and I've just used a tiny bead of clear acrylic on the end of my brush just to pick a bit of the glitter up and just smooth it over the surface. Place it where you like it. I have a tiny amount of white here. This is the high white from Essential Nails. I'm also just using this as just a splash of colour, like paint. We're just going to blend that up there. This is to hide the fact I've used a natural tip. If you were sculpting and you used clear, you get a totally different look as the light shines through the design and picks up the little bits of glitter. This is the second glitter with another little bit of clear. Just going to pick up a small amount and add this detail to the design. When you're happy with the colour and the glitter, we're going to cap all of this design work in clear acrylic. The clear is a strength powder. You need to be sure that you have a consistent depth of product over the whole nail for strength. And it's also a good idea to make sure that you have a decent thickness of clear over any glitter that you are encapsulating. If you don't have enough clear acrylic between the glitter and your file, when you're filing, you'll start to file through the glitter. And a lot of coloured alloy glitters can lose their colour. So when the time is right and you know that your product is set, you're going to pinch that free edge again, and you can leave it whilst you work on the other nails. And when it's set, you can tell by tapping it. You'll have a crisp tapping noise when the product's set hard. We're going to file the nail. Me just making a little bit of a mess of my desk there, look. Okay. So file your nail like you would normally, your side walls, your free edge. With a longer nail like this, I find that it is more beneficial to change the angle of my file. So I'm not filing straight across at right angles, but I'm filing the whole length so that you're not cutting ridges into the surface. You're going to make sure that the surface is perfectly smooth right from the apex to the free edge. Checking down the barrel of that nail all the time to make sure that you have even depth of product across from sidewall to sidewall. making sure that you don't have any high spots. This is the boring bit, so obviously I've sped it up a little bit. So white blocking over. The filing bit is probably one of the most important parts actually, and sometimes people don't file quite enough, but for a long nail like this you want a perfect smooth finish. That's the difference between a good nail and a great nail, the way that the light reflects off it. So when you've filed and buffed and you're happy, the no wipe top coat, we're just going to paint on the Essential Nails no wipe top coat and then cure that in the lamp, and we can work our 3D artwork directly onto the surface then once it's finished. So you can see I've sculpted one there, that's the clear, we can see through. This one with a touch of white on it to hide the tip. We're going to go straight onto the surface if there's no wipe top coat, and I'm using the high white. I actually love this. It's got a very plasticine-like texture to it as it's setting. Very mouldable with the brush. So I've placed that bead straight on. It's a large bead, and I've just split it in the middle to create a crescent. Very short, stubby little mini 3D brush. And the point is the center of the flower and center of the design. Just with very gentle pressure, pressing that product out and creating movement by using the tip sometimes to just lift around the surface of the petal. Gives it a little bit more texture. Now this could take quite a bit of practice for those of you that haven't done it before. There is a little magic window of time where the product is perfect for moulding. If you go in too soon, it will still be shiny and wet and tacky, and it will run and it will bounce back and it won't hold its shape. If you leave it too long when it's matte, it can split because it's too dry already, and it will take a lot of pressure to manipulate. But if you get it just right, the product will stay where you put it. It'll be quite flexible. You can take loads and loads of time practicing this, and it depends on your products and your ratios. Sometimes colours behave differently to white powders as well. So I just sat for hours in the evening with tips just practicing this. So flowers are never perfect, no petals are the same, so we do make it quite random. Each bead towards the centre will get smaller, and each petal will overlap the last. And a mistake a lot of people make at first is they apply too much product and then they have too much to deal with at once. This centre bead here in the middle, I'm just going to cut into it with the tip and very, very gently work it round into a spiral. There are many different ways of doing 3D flowers, but this is the one I'm asked most about. It's very popular. So here I'm just applying a small bead for a leaf, and with leaves it's often easier to drag the product out with the tip of the brush whilst it is on the wetter side. You can get the tip of the leaf a little bit finer. Then with the tip you just draw down and refine the shape, and as you get to that magic point you can press out the width to make the leaf quite broad. So balancing the design up, I'm just going to add 1 or 2 more. As you can see, I have sped this video up a little bit because we would be sat here all day otherwise. It can be rather time consuming, and I wouldn't usually do a set of nails where I would apply 3D artwork to all of them. This can be a fantastic little service to add as an extra just to one nail, like a ring finger for your clients. I often do it over gel polish as well, it can look beautiful. So when your 3D artwork is finished, this is where I get out my box of goodies. I keep all of my Swarovski crystals in an old tip box. I find them quite easy to use. I have some of the brush on glue from Essential Nails. I find this one the best. I've tried loads of different brands. This one sticks like concrete. So careful you don't end up with too much glue down the shaft of the brush, because if you get too much on the surface of the nail, you get in the right mess cleaning it up again. I like to pick up my crystals with a white crayon. I find that it releases them onto the nail very well. Some of the tools that I've bought have been a bit of a waste of money, really. Cheap old wax crayons, better than anything. So I like different type crystals, different sizes. My favourites probably SS3. They're the smallest ones that I get, and I usually get a few of the same colour and go up in 2 size increments, so I get 3s, 5s, 7s and 9s, and it adds that little bit more detail to draw the eye to. So when you're happy with your crystal application, I use the no wipe top coat again with a very, very fine detail brush. Now I have a separate brush to apply this, because once you've got gel on your brush you don't ever want to then go try and paint with it again. So I like these little caviar beads, the silver ones. The coloured ones can sometimes bleed the colour everywhere, so I tend to just stick with silver, and with a small amount of this no wipe gel top coat on my brush, pick up 1 or 2 caviar beads, and I've placed them in the gaps in between the crystals, and this no wipe top coat soaks around the base of each crystal, and it just acts as an extra little bit of security, making sure that they don't chip off the nail. So after that you can just bung them straight in the lamp and cure them. No need for getting any lints or fibres stuck. Now this last tiny little section is just a really quick demo at how I apply the pointed back crystals with a really small bead of clear acrylic. I have some pretty funky tweezers for doing this. They've got little ridges inside them, so it's easy to get hold of. So I just sit it in this wet acrylic, put 3 of them together back to back. This can be really tricky and fiddly, so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you've got the 3 of them on there, use your fingers to just press them together, and they can slide around, so you want to make sure you keep them in place until the acrylic sets. This is when I use my very small brush to add tiny beads of clear acrylic in all of the gaps. As you can see, I just touch a little bit of the liquid out first, and the 3 gaps around this cluster, I will make sure that I filled those gaps with a little bit of this acrylic. It sets them on there like concrete. Usually my clients come back with all of their crystals in place. So there we go. I would add my 3D work and the crystals, and that would be the finished result. Thank you so much for joining me. Come back again, we'll do loads more fun and exciting things over the next few weeks.